I think the minute I stepped on a practice field for rugby, the calling happened.
An 8-year plan to be on the team, and I was in it within 2 years.
Don't wait until you are a pro to be a pro, right?
Like, I like doing something, stopping and learning from it.
Like, it just looked like it was a heavy hit.
To give up, it's not up.
You know, that's the first time I played like professionally.
I'm making rugby money. How can I make money outside of it?
And there was 2 Scottish guys, and they said, "Oh, you're here for the movie."
Rugby is a sport where that's often coupled with actually having a good time.
He looked at me and he says, "You guys are off."
Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby.
Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Grow Rugby. My name is GiftTime and this is a show where we speak with people about the opportunities they have found, created, or taken advantage of via rugby. Now, if you're watching this, or you can probably even hear it, I'm not in my normal, situation. I'm on the road, like I told you last week. I'm on the road, heading out. It's been a crazy weekend, to say the least. But I can't get mad, and I'm at least happy to know that I can keep moving forward. And as a result, I'm not going to let you guys just be hanging. I'm not going to let you hang. I still got to put out episodes for you because we got too many great stories that we need to put out, that we need you to listen to and to be able to see the opportunities that come along with it. So I have a great guest for you guys. He has been very integral to the developing nature of broadcasting and streaming here in the U.S. You guys have probably seen several of his productions, from MLR games to USA Rugby National Championship games to youth games and so much. My boy, another of those family members out there, the founder, the director, the owner of Next Level Rugby, Ryan Ginty, out of Connecticut. And when I tell you this is a guy that, my history with him has been from almost beginning. We started doing this at the same time. We actually got introduced by a mutual friend of ours named Grant Cole, who I call the most connected man in rugby. And he actually, we were actually doing very similar things, and actually ended up combining the stuff together. And I've worked with him on production. We've helped each other on so many things. So it was a real honor having a chance to just be able to talk with him and to be able to, go a little bit deeper. Because, I'll be honest with you, in the 7-8 years that I've known him, I even in this conversation, I felt like I got more information and learned more about him. And this because, we're always in the process of work or talking, about things that are going on with us, that sometimes we don't even get the origin story. It's just we're just friends. It just works out. And with a lot of people, it's it seems to go that way. So to be able to sit and be able to talk with him on this one was something that I can't even deny was the best. Don't worry, I have a mask if you guys are worrying about it. So in this, you guys are going to hear a lot of info talk about broadcasting, the depth of how he gets into rugby, and so much. How we go in these podcasts, but I really want you to be able to pay attention to what it takes to be able to create some of these things, and what the development of rugby as not just a sport but as an industry is taking at these early stages, and how much it's an appreciative process. It's one that takes gratitude and humility as much as anything else. But I really think that you guys are going to love this, and it's going to be something that I think you guys will really connect with. So guys, I just want, before we get into it, please remember, share this podcast out. Thank you guys so much who've been listening and sharing out the information. Wanted to, you guys can catch us on all podcast streaming platforms. We're talking about from Anchor.fm to Spotify to Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeartMedia Radio, and so much more. And then, of course, please find us on youtube.com/GiftTime Rugby Network. See the videos. We're going to start putting up the clips finally. I've been promising them for months, and now we're finally going to get a chance to start doing that. So you can have a lot more shareable content to show your friends and family and be able to continue to relate these stories of rugby so you have a better establishment of the culture. And more importantly, it gives you a better connection to the sport itself, because then it becomes even more dope and more awesome to be able to connect with. And we want to make sure that we're getting a roundabout fashion, both on and off the field people. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy it, but really appreciate you guys for all listening and taking the time. So without a doubt, I'm not going to hold you guys back. Ryan Ginty, Next Level Rugby, the broadcast extraordinaire. Check it out.
Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Grow Rugby. My name is GiftTime Bailu, and I got another personal incredible P of a person there. My guy coming out of Next Level Rugby, one of the leading broadcasters in rugby here in the U.S. Ryan, hey, it is. Like, don't. We don't need this humility mess. One of the leading broadcasters for rugby in the U.S. My guy, Ryan Ginty. Yo, Ginty, man, much appreciation for you coming through.
Yeah, man, it's nice to be on this side of the camera, and by nice, I'm lying, right? That's called acting. That's what I'll try to do through this, right? No, it's cool to be here. I'm going to be, I put people under pressure normally, and allow you to put me under pressure, and hopefully I don't crack.
Look, this is it is an honor and a pleasure to be able to do this, and I'm gonna make sure that we're getting all the tears. All right, we're going full Oprah in this moment. All right, just let it all go free. All right, we release.
All right, well, I did my homework. Warren and Preston's. I listened to that one. So as I was taking my walk along the Columbia River in Wenatchee, Washington, my daily walk. So I'm prepared. Let's go.
Let's go. No. Man, well, I always like to talk about like where it always started, and I have to always appreciate the fact a lot of people may or may not know, but we've known each other almost 7 years now. Yes, 7 years now, and really started relatively at the same time. It always will make me laugh because our interaction began obviously with Grant Cole being the pieces that brought us together, and then after, I think whenever I came up to New York and you came down from Connecticut and we met up, it just worked from there. So it's been
we've been on some adventures, man. We've been on some adventures. We've been on some adventures to where it's like, okay, let's broadcast let's pick you up at your parents' house in Jersey. Let's take the RV with the NLR crew all the way down to Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's shoot some days in a monsoon there. And oh, by the way, let's send Gift and half the crew in a monsoon up to Pittsburgh to do the USA Rugby Regionals. And oh, by the way, USA Rugby didn't pay us like they were supposed to.
Right. So we stuck.
Let's count the dollars. Let's broke the shit. Brian Murphy throwing us a lifeline from old Blue.
Oh, man.
Brian Murphy, but shit, man. Yeah, and I mean, that's just one of them.
That's just one. Look, we haven't talked about Kansas. Yeah. We haven't talked about Colorado. It's been a genuine adventure, and just being able to see how. I mean, we always talk about the growth component of it, but it's just wild to kind of see what it's taken to be able to get these things and how much nobody knows what it takes.
Yeah, dude. It's been I remember I used to joke with Macy. And this is going back 14, 15. I would just be like, hey, dude, I just want to be able to afford a Starbucks. If I can get more than a 99-cent cup of coffee with change that I'm scrounging around, which even still sometimes, I don't know how many times in this business I've been like, I'm never scrounging for change to buy a cup of coffee ever again.
Right.
And somehow or other,
Next
no matter what happens, boom. Okay, where's the change at? But no, it's been a fun ride, man. It's been cool. I've just been fortunate to get to, do this. Fortunate to do it with you too. That's
word
things
feelings mutual.
Yeah, so it's been good, man. It's been fun.
Man, I love it. Well, you know, as I always say, with every superhero there comes an origin story, and as for you, I know you have a very interesting one just to even start off. So I'll kick you off like I do with everybody else, my brother. How did you get started with rugby?
Well, I mean, maybe the seed got planted when I graduated high school. I was working at a gate shack, and the ice cream man would come in, and he'd come in, cool Scott McFly, and he'd be driving his ice cream truck, and he went to Central, and I was going to go to Central, and he's like, you got to join the rugby team. I was like, nah, man, I'm going to do lacrosse. Like, there wasn't a lacrosse program at the time. He's like, nah, you got to do it. Fast forward a couple years, you know, I'm in the guard. I get back from overseas, and I started a lacrosse club at CCSU. This is 2004. Started lacrosse club at CCSU, and my buddies, like at the time, were like on the rugby team, and they were fun. And I remember we went to it was our first year in existence. SGA was giving out a total of $30,000 total, right, for all the clubs at the allotment. Like I had my buddy who was in charge of finance, like Benny, like I politicked, I college politicked. It was good. And so, like, I got him to give us $10,000 our first year. They're only giving out 30 total.
That's how you work. You get that third.
Well, the rugby team comes up on stage. They're like, "We're really nasty. We're good." And they come up like a mob, like just an army of like 40 on stage in the student government presentation. And they're like, "You should just give us $40,000 because we're nasty." And basically just walk off. And I thought, I was like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, they're giving out 30,000 total. These guys are asking for 40 so they can go to Ireland because they're good. You know, and then they didn't get the money. We got 10 grand, which was good. And we got to go to Virginia, and we got to do some fun tours for spring break, which is, looking back on it, it's hilarious that like they paid for our spring break for the lacrosse club. Yeah, we played some games, but we had fun.
It was more spring break than it was tournament style.
Yeah, so that was like 2003, and then 2004, I went out to one practice because they kept saying, "Hey, you gotta come out, you gotta come play, you gotta come play." And then, like, that first practice, I hit somebody. I'm like, I'm never looking back, you know. And so I get thrown in, and that was like 2004, 4 or 5, and it helped that we were nasty at the time too. Like we were good. 2004, we lost in the what is now the NCR National Championship in the final. That was our first loss of the season. So we were a good program coming out, and even still has had some good runs lately. CCSU, once hooligan, always a hooligan. But started playing that, and then it was just kind of like took off, and you know, played for a men's club. Started off, I think my first actual real game was for New London County Men's Club, and it was their first year that they started, and it was in my hometown area. Bunch of good dudes, D3 rugby, awesome guys. Played of course, get thrown out of wing my first game, right? And this is like
isn't that always how it starts? You're either going to start out as a wing, or you're going to be a flanker, and then you figure your place from there.
It's like we'll put them at wing. So I went out in wing, and I remember it was like 97 degrees in Springfield, Massachusetts. Incredibly hot, no cloud cover, and it was back in the day of the old like cloth jerseys, like shirts, right? So I'm like
big old white collars.
I was like, this is crazy, but it was fun. You know, I fell in love with it, like with those guys, and then played for CCSU, and then got involved with the Hartford Wanderers. Played with them for a long time. I mean, still play with them. I played with them the last fall season we had.
Nice.
So it's like came out of retirement. I mean, I've come out of retirement quite a few times. But yeah, man, it's been great. It's a great sport. As much as I love playing it, I don't know if I love maybe coaching it even more, because coached for a number of years, University of Hartford, coached a U team in Hartford. So I got to do it all, and then on top of it, get to ref too. Like I'm usually like, that's actually probably one of the best experiences in rugby. Is the first game I refed. It was my alma mater, so it was CCSU.
Nice. Versus
Eastern Connecticut State University, and they were really good at the time. CCSU was really good, and 5 minutes into the game, they were just hitting the crap out of each other. It was a fast game, and I'm just like, holy shit, that happened right in front of me. Like, this is the best heat. You're supposed to be the best heat. Like, you get into it, right? Like, when you're playing, and you get to control it, and not control it, but you get to help the game flow.
Guide the game.
Right? Like, I think that's one of the big things. And what I like about reffing is, like, I'll very vocal ref. I'll, like, talk people through things. And if they listen, you know, and I think the good refs tend to do that.
Right.
Have a good banter back and forth. I think that's important. But don't sleep on reffing. Reffing is probably the most fun thing. And So I've done pretty much everything in rugby that you could do, except for as an administrator. I never want to do that. Never want to.
He says, as he's also produced so many broadcasts as an administrator in that format.
Oh, no. But you got to remember, and I throw this to John Broker, who was the first guy to ever hire Next Level Rugby for the Bulldog Rugby Club and Dave Fisher's thing. That was our first gig, and his best advice he gave to me on the first day. He goes, "Stay out of the politics."
Yo.
Right?
That's
and
real.
so, like, as an administrator, I don't have to deal with any of the politics.
True
right?
story.
Like I don't have to deal with any of the politics. That's like the best part about it. I don't want to deal with the politics, and I don't want to get involved in any of that stuff. Like, I've got my opinions. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut.
Let me go do my work. I'm not trying to deal with this in this way.
Play the field.
Yo. No, it's real. And, I love hearing about the fact of that journey. To be honest with you, I've actually never talked to you very much about the entirety of the journey. I just knew you played and you had that. So to be able to get that, like, especially that entrance into whenever you started playing before CCSU, like moving over to the sports, whenever that first attraction, was it the hit that sold you over the top, or was it like knowing those guys and just like feeling like you're with them?
I think it was both. I think it was a good combination of guys from CCSU that were older. And like I came in as a rookie, but I mean I just came back from invading a country, you know what I mean? Right. So it's like nobody was really messing with me. You know what I mean? Like I was 21 at the time when I started playing. So it's like I didn't have to do that. And we didn't do any of the I wouldn't say we didn't do hazing. Like, I mean, there was an onion eating contest from time to time on Thursdays. I will say, but like that's just fun. It's like but it was fun. It was the group of guys. It was the way that they looked out for it. And the thing that really stuck to me, which was like the military. And it was the only thing that I found. I didn't find it in lacrosse. It's not like lacrosse is a good sport, but it's like that I'm down. Right. Like I got your back. Like I may not like you. I may not have this, but I got your back. And I literally have to protect you. Right. Like, and then the other thing too, is that I think that when you get like really in tune with the game and everything's flowing, right. And then everything just shuts off. And nothing else matters, and you're paying attention to what's going on like right now, and you're really plugged in. Mm-hmm. Like that's a feeling that you get like in the military that you can feel in certain situations. Right. And it's like something like on the pitch, which I think is that I haven't found it in any other sport, right? Like that in the moment, right? And being able to be in that moment at the time and live in that moment. And so I think that's what like I really liked, and I saw a lot of parallels between like the military and like rugby team and the men's teams, the women's team, everything,
Do you think that ever since you came out of the military and doing your stint, do you feel like that has kind of guided the direction of how you looked at rugby, or guided the direction of how you make your decisions? Because it sounds like obviously it was very, very emblematic of a very key point in time for you, and it's also an early stage of adult life. So for you, do you feel like that has been whether intentional or unintentional guiding post for how you go about everything?
I think I learned good things in the military, right? Like I think like I learned good leadership. I also learned what really bad leadership was. Like I saw the thing is what's can be great about the military can also be bad about the military as well too. But I think like the best part about the military is that bond you have with people, and it's that you're going to do your job because it's your job and I'm relying on you to do it. And that's one of the hardest things with transitioning is you get out and, and it's not a knock on civilians because I love civilians and not everybody's like this, but you're supposed to do something, you don't always follow through.
Facts.
Right? Like you have that, and you have that accountability. Rugby, you have that accountability too. It's not necessarily have to be called out, but like you really get to see if you shy away from a hit, like as a coach, if you get run over, so what? I've been run over. Vinny Daly splat for me. Like I've taken big hits, you know what I'm saying? But like if you shy away from that, or you step away and you don't commit to it, it means like you're not sacrificing for the team. I think that's one of the best things about this sport. It keeps you honest, and you can't hide. You have to be honest. Like you can get away with it for a little bit, but you can't hide on the field. And I think that's one of the other things too that I really like about the sport.
Yo, I love that, and I always think about that in terms of how this sport develops, because on the field we always know, I guess maybe a better parallel, when it comes with NFL football, we know it's within a structure, and within that structure you find your spacing, right? But within rugby, yes, there is set pieces that you have, but like you said, it's all about being able to do your job. The best teams in the world always seem to function off of the person that you know for sure is going to take care of their part. And then you're able to fill in where you need to be from there. But it's still free-flowing. It still works within the action of life, which I think makes it such an easy parallel to regular life in so many instances. You know, for you, like, you started playing and you start getting into it. Was there a moment where you had like the light bulb moment where it all felt like it started to click a little bit on the field for you, and you're just like, okay, I'm seeing what I'm seeing from the game, and then I'm also being. It took me years. It took me years, right? Like, I think it was probably when I was about like 31. Yeah. When everything like came through, like I was in great shape, like, you know, I like everything kind of like clicked. And that was probably before. That was like about when I was about 29. So I've been playing the sport for, at that time, 8 years. Right. You know what I mean? And like I had intermittents where like I didn't play for a while. Like I'd be doing like some MMA stuff, and like I'd concentrate on that for like a year and go back and forth to rugby. So like rugby wasn't always consistent. Like it was for the most part, but like I took breaks away from rugby, which is something I think is incredibly important that people need to do because it helps you appreciate it. You know, you should go out, you should do other things. But yeah, no, once that like it was sevens, once I started playing sevens a lot, and I really understood the field vision and I could see the field and I can anticipate things. I knew where to go. Like that was the aha moment. And so it's like the older I get, I'm definitely not in as great shape as I was back then, especially now. But having that knowledge and understanding the game and like being able to see it and coming in and, you know, you know where to be on the field. You know what's going to happen next. You can anticipate that. And that only comes with experience, you know, and that comes with being in that situation and learning. Like, and as a coach, like my whole thing was the amount of time that we spent on set pieces was minimal. And I'm going to probably get crucified by the purists and all this, but like at a D2 college level, like let's play rugby, right? Like let's keep it moving. And my whole philosophy is you have at any time no less than 8 decisions in what you can do, right? I want you to play what you see, what's in front of you, right? Like I don't want you to just fall into a structure all the time and keep going into it, right? You got to be adaptable to what's happening. And that's kind of the way I think that, like, you know, that's the way I like to look at things, you know, like adapt to what's in front of you, make it happen, like live in the moment. And that's what rugby, I think, is really good, is that you can live in that moment, you know. Hey guys, I just want to take a quick moment to talk to you about the Rugby Outlet Mall. Now, I know you guys have heard me talk about this many times in the show before, typically in the intro, but I wanted to really make sure to get your focus on it because the Rugby Outlet Mall is not just the commerce hub for GiftTime Rugby, but it is an area where we want to be able to create the movement and the symbolic elements that add to the movement. The Rugby Outlet Mall is here so that we can have something that not just to have for the field, but more importantly to be able to have as a regular lifestyle. Because as you know, rugby is not just a sport. It's a whole way of life. It is a movement. And we have everything moving from cultural to your pop culture items like our Rugby Zon shirts and sweaters, as well as representing for the culture as we continue to develop the HBCU Rugby Classic. And we want to continue to support these things because it only grows the sport overall. We are continually growing to be able to make sure that we're connecting with you on a personal level as well as a rugby level. And for you guys that are listening to the podcast and listening to this show, want to let you know that you are going to get 20% off all gear that is under the category of GiftTime Rugby Network and the HBCU Rugby Classic. That is basically the entire store. And all you need to use is promo code Greaux Rugby, GREAUX Rugby. And with that, you guys will get 20% off any clothing that is in the store as of right now. And of course, we're always building up more and more each time. But we want to make sure that you are able to symbolize your rugby faithfulness to the rest of the world and let them know that there is an opportunity to be able to develop, to grow, and to get better each and every time in this sport. So guys, I hope you guys check it out. Definitely go, and you guys can go to www.rugbyoutletmall.com. That is rugbyoutletmall.com. Guys, you're not going to want to miss one bit of this. Now let's get back to it. So whenever you're kind of moving into that coaching element, was there any person that actually helped guide that philosophy, or was it something that you was just like, I kind of started picking it up, and then, you know, like you said, around that 31 time, you started light bulb moment thing, and then it was just like, let me reflect it, or did someone kind of help?
So like when I like coached Eric Rentz, who was actually a coach for me, like I played with him, won championships with him with Hartford, and then he's older, and then he ended up coaching CCSU, and that was like my first assistant job. I didn't get paid or anything, but I was helping out with the team.
Right.
And then I hurt my shoulder. Like I was originally going to go to Boston, play with Mystic River, and go to nursing school, but use the GI Bill to go up there, and I want to play rugby at Mystic River.
Flex it.
Like 2009, 2010 time frame.
Right.
Then I ended up blowing out my shoulder. You know what I mean? And blew out my shoulder, so I ended up staying around Hartford, and the University of Hartford women's team was looking for a coach. They reached out to the Wanderers. I wasn't doing anything. I was going through medical school at the time, I think, and then so I was like, yeah, I'll go coach. And I went over with my buddy Sam. And Sam was from Ireland, and he was just a buddy from home. He went to UConn, came over, played like on the seas over in Ireland, but really understood the game and really like knew the game. So like me and him for like a year and a half at University of Hartford worked together, and that really helped shape like where I was at, because that was the only time I had an assistant coach. I was actually like an assistant coach,
right?
But a lot of it, I mean, I had a lot of guys that like I called like Macy, like I talked to Macy.
Yeah.
I'd be in a fortunate position.
Because he was at American University at the time, right?
American International College, yeah, AIC, which is still one of my favorite teams of all time to watch play. Like I like Jihad Kabir is like a freshman, and like as a sophomore, the kid was on Unreal AP. Like I mean, that was a great team. Gavin DeMille Morrison, Dooney, like that was like such a good team, and it was the changing of college rugby as well too, because it had flavor, right, and culture. Right. And that was something that had been missing from the rugby scene. So we were down there, we were doing the ACRC championships that Steve Ciano put on for the ACRCs out of the Rugby Athletic Center. And I remember seeing them play, and they were lighting it up. You know what I mean? Like coming to high fiving the fans on the sidelines, because there's like a bar right there with thing, and like we're putting that to air. And I remember being like, this is hype. This is what like rugby needs. Like, it was great. So, and he allowed those players, a lot of them out of the Hyde program in DC, to go out and express themselves and to play, and to like, don't harp on mistakes if you're going for it, right? And express yourself. And then so like seeing him, and then, working on some projects, just going up there. And then also like Greg McWilliams, I've had access to him, being able to like see his workings, how he does it. Steve Lewis, I mean, Sean Horan, like, and other things like it's the greatest. It's like the greatest thing that being there with the camera is that you get to see everybody in their moment, and you're seeing it again on film, and then you're looking at it. So you have these great coaches, Josh Smiths, right? That like I have how they're coaching their team, what they're doing. I'm making a highlight of it, and then I'm also learning, and then I'm stealing it. I remember I said to Macy or to Lewis, and I was like, hey, I'm stealing that. And they go, you should steal everything. They're like, take every idea. Another one, like Brandon Sparks, was always cool too. Like, I mean, and I don't think I've ever really talked with Sparks on like actual like game theory or like what to do, but just on just like life and different things, And so I think I've been fortunate to have, and I think that's what makes rugby good, to have like a network of people that you can like talk to, right?
No,
so I mean, but game theory, like, nah, man. I've always like I would just sit in a room with my whiteboard, and I just go over my whiteboard. Just come up with like, and I mean, even still when I'm planning productions and I'm doing stuff like storylining, it's all whiteboard, putting it all together. Like, what does this work? Drop this play, get this going, figure this one out, like do all different things. And people be like, oh, it's like a 1-3-3-1. I'm like, nah, dude, that's how we play rugby. Like,
right.
This is what we're doing. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want.
That's how it goes. I don't know.
Whatever you want. This is what we got. But the other thing too that like I really liked about coaching is that every year it was different, because you have different tools. Right. And my big thing was that like as a player, I don't want you to fit into the system. I want you to be able to express yourself in the system. Right. Like I want to make it to where you're advantageous. Like what makes you good, we're putting you in that position to utilize that skill, which I think a lot of times when people get in this 1-3-3-1, like we got to go this and we got to do this, and you get hung up on, man, you got to play rugby. Play what's in front of you. Right. Play rugby, see what's going on.
It's part of the free flow.
Yeah. It's a free flow. Make those decisions and allow people to make mistakes. If you drop a ball, you're not going to ball. It's not the end of the world, right? You shy off the tackle. Like, now I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call you out loud, and I'm going to do it. Like,
But it's to allow it to be known. Like, look, get it right, but don't sit on the action. But at least get it right. You get, keep accountability. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. So funny story about Josh Macy is like, so our first year at Nationals when we went, that's when we were out in Kansas City. We were in Kansas City, and then I flew out and we were coaching University of Hartford. And I remember in the coaches meeting before, we're all in there. Macy comes in. He's like, "Oh man, you got to check it out. Like we're over. We got the hotel across the way. We got the conference room set up. We got 3 projectors, couple laptops, everything ready to go. It's an awesome, man. In between games, we're doing video analysis, we're doing all this." I was like, "Dude, we almost got Fortnite to work last night at our place." You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just funny like that. And that's what I think was special about college rugby right now. You know, it's just that like, there's all different types of experiences. There's all different types of things and fits, and it's fun.
Yo, no, I think is the truth. Especially considering that we know that most of the population of rugby players kind of reside within that college rugby element. So it has that ability to be able to change the way that the culture goes, but you have to also be able to allow it. I remember with at least AIC, you know, whenever they started popping up onto the scene, what was it like 2013, 2014? Like, and really starting to make moves. It was just like, oh snap, okay. Yo, this is different, definitely different than what we'd been seeing here in the South. And then I knew it was different than what was typically going on within the East Coast and whatnot. So like, but to your point, it was nice to be able to get something that varied. And it was the first time I think that we could get something that was almost American stylization of rugby in that effort. So, but, and I think now over the last 5 years, I feel like we've started to see little bits more like it started minuscule. I remember whenever I first was covering, like it was basically, you know, people go out into the field and then, you know, do the everybody on 3, boom. And then it was just, you go. And then I think within like 2-3 years after that, all of a sudden everybody had like a chant, and then all of a sudden it was just like, yo, wait, you guys really are like choreographing some shit right now.
So like after we went to the national championship at Central and we lost that, the next year we played Coast Guard at Coast Guard.
Right.
And
this against Sean and them.
Well, this is
Hitting against
No. So this was the academy.
Oh, gotcha.
So it was the Coast Guard Academy, and they ended up winning the national championship that year. And to that point, where you're talking about like the professionalization of it, Robert Famiglietti comes up to us at halftime, and he's like, "Hey, listen, you know, when you guys showed up 5 minutes before kickoff, singing songs, smoking cigarettes, and just like not even stretching, just taking the field, I thought it was going to go completely different because it was 5-0. It was like 5-0. You know what I mean? Like we're hanging in, and we're like, oh, well, thanks, man. That's great and everything. And then, you know, we go out and Coast Guard puts up like 15, 20 points. Because like we just weren't like we weren't going to playoffs. We didn't take it as seriously. But, you know, we would show up singing Memphis, touchdown in the land of the Delta Blues in the middle of the pouring rain. Right. So like that was our song. Like we'd get on, we just like somebody would just start singing it. We just like belt that out. It's a whole thing. It's like the whole team, everyone's just like going. And then we did have like our Terry Tiki Tumba thing. But that was fun. That was like, but I mean, so from that, right, and to where it's at now was pretty good. And I mean, it's as serious you want to take it. And I remember I had this one player, Dom, who was like a godsend of a freshman. He was like 20 years old, played in Hong Kong, you know, like a Scottish kid, like 250 pounds and moves like he's like, you know, fast, super fast. Like
180.
He's one of the fastest guys on our team. You know, and so he came and he was new to the team. I'd been coaching at UHart for like 3 years, and his brother came up. And so I was talking to him and his brother after one of the games, like, so what do you think? He goes, yeah, it's good. He goes, I can't believe you guys like do this 6 days a week. And I was like, oh. And like I thought about it. I was like, man, we are doing this 6 days a week, right? And this is like, so I mean, because you play on Saturday, have Sunday off. Monday we would do film. Tuesday we'd have practice. Wednesday we do a morning practice. Thursday we do practice. Friday we run through, and then we do it. And I mean, as a college program, which is why we made it to the national championship 2 years in a row for sevens.
That's why, and that's even unprecedented to an extent now. Let alone to be doing it 5-6 years ago, which was just like more than 2 days a week of practice. What are you talking about?
yeah. And I mean, but it was. And I mean, it's like it's you can take it as serious as you want it, right? Like I set out to them. I was like, when I originally had coached the women's team, and like I love coaching the women's team. I mean, we made it to the Sweet 16. we were really, really good team. I think some of the best athletes I ever coached were on that women's team.
Nice.
And some probably one of the best ones I ever had as a coach was on that women's team. But like that was fun. That was fun. I'm gonna tell that story just because it's a good one. And
Let's
it's
go.
one of my favorites. So one of the things when I started coaching women's rugby, I remember I would say I would be like, oh, we're gonna chip chase, we're gonna kick. I've got the athletes, and I remember coaches in the community be like, oh, you can't teach women to do that. And I was like, what do you mean you can't teach women to do this? Like, that's not how women play rugby. I was like, no, that's how we play rugby, right? Like,
right. It's just rugby. It's not women's rugby.
We're playing rugby, right? And so one of the biggest things I just said, the mentality, I was like, listen, we're gonna come out and we're gonna beat people up. We're gonna hit.
Right.
We're gonna hit. We're gonna be in shape, and we're gonna be relentless when we play this game. We're gonna play with passion. And I had great athletes. I mean, I had great athletes that were all in the wrong place. They just, they didn't know how to do it. They didn't have a coach, right? So
right.
I remember Shania, who was probably one of the best centers, like one of the best athletes I've ever seen play the game, like hands down. She was their scrum half, right? But a flanker center, beast, And so I was like, no, she can't play scrum half. They're like, the captain said to me, like, well, who's going to pick and go? I'm like, that's not how we play, right? I was like, that's not how we do it. Like, we're gonna play rugby.
Right.
So we're doing it, and I mean, I had the athletes, and they wanted to learn. So we set out with a good attitude that we're gonna take it. They were training just as much. I mean, that schedule was the same training schedule that we were doing for the men. We were doing with the women, and we go into Springfield. Springfield's undefeated at the time, #1 team up there, and like very arrogant, and like I've always got something against Springfield as a coach. That was like the one team that always just like, oh, it's just one thing, something irritated me.
Everybody has that one rival team.
Are great. I'm talking more about the men. I'm talking about more
but you still everybody has that one team that they just ride under you, and you're just like, I got to destroy you every time.
Yeah. So we were, so we go into it, and I told the girls, I was like, listen, like we're going into this. You go in pairs. If you go to the bathroom, you're taking somebody with you. Right. Like we're going to walk in 2 lines. Nobody's going to say a word. We're going to go in there. We're going to handle our business. So go in there. And that was the other thing too. I think that like as a coach, you got to set the mentality for your players, especially when they're young, right? Like, and everything works. Little things are better. And I think that's one of the more fun. So anyways, so I digress. Back to the story. So they come around and they're doing their jog around and they're not taking it seriously. They're like laughing and they're kind of like looking at us and they got like face paint on and they're all kind of like, and they're throwing the ball around and stuff. And I was like, look at how they're taking it. Look at what's going on right now. They're the #1 team right here. They have no respect for you whatsoever. And man, that ass whooping that they put on was like one of the best things I'd ever seen. I mean, we were chip chasing. We were like kicking the ball down, 2 chasers on, making the tackle, poaching the ball, taking it going. And I think it was like 47-5 was like there's a highlight on YouTube.
God, no.
It was like 47-5. And the coach ended up coming up to me after the game. And I mean, because she was very, very, very confident at the start of the game, I will say. She goes,
almost arrogant with it.
Yeah, and she was like, wow. She's like, they're good. I was like, oh yeah, they're awesome. I was like, they're really good. She goes, we don't want to play you guys in playoffs. And so I was like, and that was good because that was when I saw the team believe in how good that they could be.
Right.
And like that was the thing to where when it all just clicked and it all just came together and then they just went out and they balled out. And I mean, that was just like, it was just such a fun thing to watch. And that was just like,
I mean, that's
because they were the #1 team. They were the #1 team in New England at the time. We're like, nah, you come to Hartford. Like, come to Hartford. Hartford's #1. Let's go.
This reminds me of the old Under Armour commercial. Protect this house. I will.
Yeah, 100%. It's Hitford, man. 100%. So.
No, it's again, it goes back to something that we always talk about. Well, that we always know in the sport is like, look, wherever you get your guidance is going to be able to help develop where the rugby is going to go. And whether it is you started early or not, but that coaching changes the game. And for you, it was just a matter of 1, mental games, and 2, letting people be where they need to be, letting them be themselves.
I never had a coach. I never really had a coach. Like, I mean, really? I've never, even when we were at Central. So the best coach I ever had in my life, won 2 national championships with UConn. But we sucked. We weren't even. It was Mark Jordan, coached at UConn for years. Brought them to the women's team. Brought them to the national championship. But he coached us at New London County, and I mean, we're just learning to throw the ball, right? So I mean, he's an international sevens player. Like, grew up in the program, in the system, the English system, and just had a wealth of knowledge. But like, we were just too juvenile in our rugby career to actually be able to take advantage of it. And then after that, like I had Scott Truss, who came to Hartford for one season, and he was a really good coach. He like taught us some other stuff, but like, yeah, it was all the central teams those are all pretty much just like student run. Like there's this student get on the sideline with a clipboard, and it's like he tries to make any changes. They're like, no, shut up. Like it's on paper. Like
it's making sense why I took. It's making sense why it took 8 years for it to all click together.
Yeah. So like, I mean, game theory, like in at Central, we were just gonna beat you up. Like,
right.
I mean, we had 60-meter rolling balls. Like, I mean, like, and we just had some. And I was at the time, I was like, 215 solid.
Yeah.
I was small on our team. You know what I mean? Like our pack was like big. And so it's just like, we're just going to beat you up and take the ball down. And if we gave it to the backs, they were going to knock it on. So like, why are we going to do that? You know what I mean? Just like
play that bully ball. Play that bully ball. Like why? We're just going to make sure you remember that you're here.
Yeah.
You're going to remember us.
We'd show up and we'd play like Yale. And I remember thinking, it's like, we'd go down there, we'd go to Yale, we'd handle them pretty well, but we'd be like in mismatching jerseys, like complete trashy rugby. Like, I mean, we didn't have a complete set of jerseys, because somebody walked off with them, somebody graduated and stole them. We didn't have money to get it. Like the school wouldn't give us any money. Like, but and the funny thing was though is that we would always we had Fiji water.
Right.
Our boy Rash's dad was a Fiji water rep, so like we'd look like a complete, like
disaster. Best bottle of the game.
A disaster, exactly. But like we had Fiji water, and Christina Aguilera did not go on stage unless she had Fiji water. And CCSU rugby, we may be trash, but we got Fiji water, and that was fun. So that was fun. I mean, that was fun. But now it's like it's good for everybody to have matching jerseys. It's good for everyone.
I guess. I mean, if you want that whole unified thing, I mean, I hear.
You got to. It just looks better to sell a product. I mean, that's the way you got to look at it, right? Like you got to sell a product, and that's why like D1A was always like super heavy on like your uniforms.
Of course.
And it's like if you're going to sell a product and you're going to make it look good, you got to take it professionally because you don't see any other sports on schools on campus that look like that.
Like that.
But at the same time, I'm still proud that we show up with 4 different jerseys. Like.
Oh man, look, I can't get mad at that, but I feel like that's part of that what we can call now literally the good old days of rugby, where it did have that a little bit more Wild West feel to it, especially. Like I know whenever I start, because I didn't start until 2009, but I'd seen it at USF whenever it was like in 2004, 05. And they were kind of in that like stage. It was a little bit more organized, but in that stage. But at that time, I thought literally, I've told this a million times, I thought rugby didn't really actually get played. I thought it was just like fencing. Like I thought it was just that thing that people do, but it was like old school. So okay, so this is where it comes into where I think you become very. This is your calling gets kicked in. So you've coached, you've played, you've reffed. How did you start now moving into this broadcasting lane? Because I feel like because it wasn't was this where you initially were organizers? Because you spoke in medical terms that you
I've listen, man, like I've jack of all trades, master of none, right? Like I've done everything.
Brother, my own heart.
Chronically abused the post 9/11 GI Bill to go to like every different school that I could. Like, I like to try a bunch of different things, and kind of go around. And I got into the media end of it because we needed game film when I was coaching the women's team. Like we needed game film, so I got game film. And I was like, I got a camera, maybe we can do some games. And I wanted to do announcing. I wanted to do like play-by-play and color commentary. That's what originally I wanted to do, but nobody was producing games.
Yeah.
Like nobody was doing that, right? So originally, Next Level Rugby started with Charlie. You met Charlie, right? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You met Charlie.
Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. Charlie. Yeah. So, but like we got our first gig, and then we got hired by Serevi at the time to go to Vegas, and it was Adam Kopp, who now runs Matic, who was the head of their marketing for Serevi.
Right.
Hired us and brought us out, and I mean at the time we basically just got our expenses covered. went out there to USA Sevens. It was the first time. It was awesome.
So wait. Before you go into that, what was the transition? Because you're there's a whole section right here of I just wanted to film some games to Sorevi got us. So
okay. So like I have ADD like crazy, right? So if
I got you, brother.
Here, I'm sorry, different times. Like, all right. So dial it back all the way back.
Bring it back. But I do want to get to that story.
So I, nobody was like shooting rugby, right? Nobody was creating good content. So I wanted to do that, and I wanted to broadcast it. So I had post 9/11 GI Bill. So I was like, Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I can get paid to go to school for free here. Like, I can learn how to do broadcasting, right? So I went there. It was a 4-month, Monday through Friday program. You're there from like 8 to realistically like 9 o'clock at night because you're working on projects. And it was good in the sense that it was, if you're self-motivated and you're a self-starter, it shows you how to do everything, kind of like a little bit of stuff. So went there, and then I remember I called up Steve Ciano because he was the ACRCs. I think it was 2014. And I was just like, hey, you guys live streaming this? You got what's going on? And I just cold called this dude out of nowhere. He's like, no, like, and we hadn't done a live stream to save my life at that point. I was like, well, I think you need to. I was like, all these teams going there. It's huge. Like, you need to get it going. He's like, I have no money. I'm losing money on this event. It's rugby because, of course, you're not making money on their event, especially 2014. And then so like he gets on the phone call. He gets
started streaming at that point. Just started streaming.
So like 2014. So then I remember he puts me on a conference call with Bruce McLean.
Right.
And a long time I own a guy like won a national championship as coach of NIAC. Bruce McLean's like old school rugby to like the T and like a staple, especially in New York. And so he's like, what do you need? I was like, well, and at the time it was a $300 part. Like I laugh at it now, like $300 is a drop in the bucket now. Like $300, like damn, write that off. It's nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, but at the time it was $300 to get this one piece of equipment that I could put into my computer and I could actually ingest the feed, right? So it was the encoded piece. Never figured anything out. So he goes, oh, well, I'll go down to B&H and I'll buy it. Like, I'll go get it. I was like, oh, no shit. I was like, well, how are you getting down? Like, he goes, can you get to New Rochelle? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I've got a bus going with the Iona guys. Like, take the bus down with us. We're going to Charlotte. We're going to be there the whole weekend. And then you can just take the bus back with us.
Nice.
So I got a hotel room. Bruce bought this piece of equipment. I brought down like my crappy like computer at the time, like tower, right? I bring it down there and try to put it in. Me and Charlie are up on the phone till like literally 2 hours before we got to go live for this event, right? Like all night in this hotel room trying to get to work and going back and like looking at it like it never should have worked. Like it never should have worked, right? So like we go there, we hack it. And mind you, this is again, like this is him just literally over the phone, like talking me through like setting the bus settings, all this stuff. I don't even know what we were doing. So we end up getting that going. And then we're live streaming it. I'm doing the play-by-play. I'm also doing the camera. And then that's kind of like how it started, and that's why like I always say like the streaming component, Bruce McLean's the godfather. He like invested in it, put the first $300 up, and then it was so cool. But I was like, no, just keep the piece. I remember being like, that's all. Like, well, I can just keep it. He's like, yeah, dude, like you didn't get paid for this. You didn't do this. You provide this service for us. And I think it was like something like 18 hours of streaming we did that weekend.
Nice.
The first event ever. And then from there, we're like, all right, we got to like, piece by piece, then let's actually get a switcher. Let's get the SDI cable. Let's get this. Let's figure it out. Let's do it. And I mean, back in the day, like I was fortunate. I had people that were passionate about it with me too. That's where I could be like, hey, listen, I don't have money to pay you, but like we got like $3,000. I can afford to get a van. We can get a place to stay. I can feed you. Come down. That's just enough to rent it, for like $3,000, drive all the way. Like it's hilarious when I think about like what we did with nothing. With nothing. You know what I mean? And like, and so, but I was fortunate because I had great people like yourself that were just like, yeah, we're down the ride. Let's just make it happen. And so that's what's ultimately, and like I appreciate everyone that's helped along the way. It started with like Charlie, you getting involved, Nick, Val, all those guys, like everybody, So it's like that's what's really I've been fortunate for is that like I've had a good team, a good crew with me.
No, I and it's been one that because for me, obviously around that same time, I think it's so funny how similar our stories were on that because it was even the same thing. Like whenever I started, it was one little piece from, it wasn't even Black Magic. I think it was from Livestream at the time to try and use it. And it was, I mean, mine didn't go as successfully. I think I got almost all the game, but I forgot to charge my camera. So like it.
I've been there, dude. I've been there.
Right.
Like.
And so, like, all people could hear is just a sound, but they, for some reason, they couldn't get the. It was just the worst. But
so yeah, dude, let me tell you, like power, like we had one of those issues to where like we had an issue with the power failure to it went down and we're like, oh, crap. And it wasn't horrible. It wasn't the end of the world. It was like kind of like a wake up call. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, get battery backups, which you should always have. Right. You always have battery backups. I got them. Person was like, oh, why are you getting them? You don't need them. I was like, no, we need them. Trust me. Let's get them. Long story short, we're doing an extremely important job, delivery to an extremely important customer. Forget to fill gas in the generator, right? All of a sudden, everything goes out except for the critical equipment. And it was just like one of those things to where it's like, thank God we got the batteries, man. I just hopped the battery real quick, threw like something over, filled it with gas and got it going again. But it was like, yeah, the power thing, man.
Yeah, no, it's real. Like it's so real. But it's really interesting because, you know, as we do all this, it's always funny being able to see how people reacted to them. Because in essence, everybody, like any games that we streamed, everybody would assume, yo, it's banking. Yo, you're banking money. Yo, you better.
It's we're so broke. And so I go back. So Pat Guthrie, you know, long time, like did a million freaking US games. I remember he was telling me when I first started coming up and like really started packaging events and doing, he goes, you need to get out of that role. You need to go to the director role. Don't take on all that responsibility. Like he goes, it's not worth it. It's like, it's a pain in the butt, but it's like a drug, man. It's a rush.
Oh my God.
Like live, like to come in and get off on time, to pull it off, to make it good. Like there's no feeling like at the end of a broadcast where you terminate and then you just look at everyone and you're like, that was good.
Yo,
that was good. And it was like, all right. And I mean, that's the rush that makes doing live like
dude
fun.
I tell people this all the time. I tell people this not even all the time. I only tell it every once in a while. So let me not make a lie. But I tell people this whenever I'm doing the lives. Like they'll see it and you're like, you're stressing out during the whole time. You're like, yo, make sure the angles are good. Yo, make sure we get into points. Yo, are we hitting the lower thirds, hitting everything going? You just feel like you're losing your mind. And then you get to the end of it and you're like, yo, we just produced this shit. Like it just came together. And it's like, why would you want to do it again? I remember someone asked me after I did it after USA South, a U19 NACRA tournament. They're like, yo, we thought you weren't ever going to do it again. I was like, why wouldn't I do this again? Like, it's stressful as hell, but once you figure it, but it's just like, yo, you're crafting this story via these shots, and you're just able to just make sure everything goes, and it's almost like it's your dreams, it's your mind coming into reality. I guess maybe that might be what puts it together. Even when it gets a little iffy in the middle, it's like, yo, at least it what I was thinking hopefully was coming through in the screen in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, man, it's great. Like it's fun. Live production's fun.
It really is. Mm-hmm. So, you know, now you're at this point where you've now really upgraded. And one thing that I've always been really happy to see, and it's also made it why it's really easy for me to, I've always wanted to work with you, was because of the way that you were able to get people together. It's something that I like. I don't have the same skill as you as that to be able to gather people together like that. And being able to develop these guys, because I've seen them, like they're young guys. You really give them a chance, and I can see it in their eyes. I've talked with them even before, where it's like, yo, they really, it's different. Like when you know that you're opening a world to somebody. So you've had this opportunity to do it, and you've worked it so well. You know,
I think it's kind of like the sport, right? Like, because I look at it, you see other people that are in the broadcast world that have kind of done the same thing. You know, I'd say 80 to 90% of the people that have worked for me, like I actually taught how to play rugby, right? Like Val, Brendan, you know, Orlando, those are all guys that like I coached as high schoolers in Hartford, right? Like those are all kids that were on my high school team that I gave job, that I was like, hey, come work for me, make money, right? Like Nick, freshman year, shows up as a male cheerleader, never played a contact sport in his life. 3 weeks into the season, this kid's taken over a senior spot as a starting flanker. It was one of my favorite stories. Is like, and I mean, now the kid, he's been with me forever, and like without, like he's been like my right hand man in a lot of ways, you know. And it's like I just, you know, Rich Galena from the Village Lions, you know, it's been a saying forever, but like, and this is something I think I really got to harp on, and what I think like Major League Rugby can do. But he used to say, you know, a rising tide raises all ships.
Right.
Right. Like if this is going good, I want it to go good for you. Right. Come with me. Right. Like, let's go. Let's all do this together. And ultimately, it's like, for a while, the landscape in rugby has been like very cutthroat. Like, you know, I need this bid. I'm going after this. We're doing this. We're doing that. Like, and I just don't think that that's the way. I think that like cohesion and working together,
agreed,
is going to get us further. Right. It's going to take us a while, but I think it's like getting to that point where, you know, I always laughed when everyone was like, "Oh, 2016 rugby's in the Olympics." Like, say less. Rugby. Everyone's got to love rugby, and it's like, all right, no, that's not what it's going to take. Like,
it was even to that end. It was, I think, even after that, because I felt like the Olympics had been great. That was a great showcase of rugby, and even 2017 Women's Rugby World Cup. But it literally highlighted the very thing that was needed, and which is why I feel like the broadcasting and streaming came so important. Was what's next? Like, cool, you've got this game. What's next? How are people being able to enjoy this? And for me, I've been the advocate that rugby should never be beholden to a singular network or so like that. So to be able to have some autonomy on that was nice. But what you said was true, where cohesion was going to be needed at some point. Like it didn't make sense to fight for games. I remember I was just like, one, if we're fighting for broadcast, for contracts, literally it's like 6 teams that are going to do it consistently. It's like nobody wants to see these same 6 teams all the time, you know? But I think what happened was us being able to go do games that we wanted to get, and they also sometimes happen to be able to pay off in a little way, but we were able to get those games. Like whenever we went to Kansas City and did the high school, or in New York, you started establishing, especially when you were working with Old Blue, with Nyack, I'm sorry.
No, Old Blue. Don't get that wrong.
Blue. Okay.
Old Blue paid my rent. Thank you. Old Blue paid my rent. All right. No, and I mean, so like Old Blue, man, like I got to say, you know, and that's another fortunate thing, being able to be around a lot of good clubs. Like, like Old Blue, I hated Old Blue 100%. Because like we'd play them, and I remember like we just look up and I'm like, there's 6 Eagles on that team right now. We're gonna get drubbed 80 to 20. I think we scored 20 points. You know, like, and that was like, oh my God, we scored against them. But it was just like I hated them because they'd come in, they'd kick your ass, they'd drink your beer. You know, they're all good, and then they just like kind of like walk off and go do their own thing. And then once I actually got like in, they, you know, paid my rent, right? Like actually gave me real money to buy stuff, right? And which was infrastructure building. And Brian Murphy understood that. And he even said, he goes, you know, you're hand to mouth right now. Right. And that was literally, you get this, all right, we're paying for this. All right, I get this money, we're paying for that. We're building this, now we can do this next time. But they really took care of their people. Like Old Blue really does. Like Austin Huns, great club. Look at them, like been around them. They like do that. And I think that's like rugby as a whole. It's like, you know, you kind of, when you're outside, you know, and then looking in, you're kind of like, I don't like that. And that's also kind of been like a little bit of the Achilles heel, right? Right. Which is more towards the men than I think the women, right? Because the men and that ego, like they're not going to share. I remember like I'd put out like the dopest Old Blue highlights, life highlights, and the other teams aren't going to share that content. Right. They're not. Because they're like, screw that, I'm not going to watch that. But that's where the women are better, because women are like, yo, check out my girl. Like, right. She's crushing it right now, like just destroying it. And it's like, you know, the men, it's changing though. I think it's changing. And I think, you know, overall, just that whole interoperability of rugby and being able to play on different teams is like, you know, helping really spread that. The academy teams has been a big difference. Right. You know, it's been a big thing. So it's, you know, but the women are way better at social.
100%. It was one of the wildest things that I ever heard whenever people started saying like women's rugby doesn't work as well as men's. And I'm like, are you guys actually watching these games? Like, yo, it is beautiful to watch. Like the smoothness at the top level, working its way down. It is crisp to be able to watch it.
I really hope we got a World Cup this year. Like I really do. Because I think that like I'd love to see our team just go ball out and just win. I mean, we could. I think we damn well could. If it happened. Like I think that would be like the greatest. Well, aside from everything that's like happened, right? Like for sporting, for me, that would be like the greatest tragedy if like we can't figure that out. But hopefully we get to go there, kick some ass and win.
I agree. I feel like it's gonna end. I have no doubt that the World Cup is gonna end up happening. I have no doubt that the Rugby World Cup will happen. Well, whether people will be able to get in other than athletes, that's where the question. But from what I understand, talking to some people, they're already in New Zealand preparing for it. Yeah. But like it's one that I wanted to, I want that media pass. Like, let's go. Like, I've worked all this time. Let me go to this.
Yeah.
Flex that. But if we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully, whatever happens with the Olympics is going to allow itself to happen with New Zealand.
Hey everybody, this is just the Break Train sending out a personal little video diary to all you people out there, where I am going to document me riding most of the way between Singapore and Tokyo for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Number one is because as part of my business I do Rugby Lovers Guide to Asia. Number two is I want to bring a lot of exposure to the rugby clubs and the rugby NGOs and charities. Also on a personal level, I just want to break the funk I've kind of felt I've been into for the last 10 years. So for the next 12 months, I poured myself into this Singapore to Tokyo campaign, but it still wasn't enough. I needed help, and it came from Louisiana.
We in Singapore, baby!
Gift from GiftTime Rugby USA is a extroverted tour de force.
Say hi to my people out there.
Which makes up for my social shortcomings. This place is unbelievable. No! It's not just it's like
what's he supposed to do?
Morons, a bunch of morons. Guys, picture with me. Picture. Australian. G'day, mate. You can use my phone. But what unites us is a hunger for adventure.
Off to KL, Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah! Woo! Gift, where are we?
We're in
Mount Fuji, baby! Our love of Asian rugby culture.
1, 2, 3, center!
Yeah!
Rugby is starting to develop here in Cambodia for women as well.
Valkyries, the mighty, mighty Valkyries!
And allows us to overcome incredible obstacles. It's just got so thick. It's just so thick here, now it's pouring down rain again.
But coming to this Thai-Cambodia border has renewed all the aggression.
So the whole thing's gone buggered. I got hit. What? I got tail-ended by a motorbike. I can just feel that knee, that ankle just going in all the wrong directions under the weight of my body. But that doesn't compare to the pain of failure.
I'm dying. Oh, I'm dying.
And that's what I've been worried about this whole time. We're out here, we're running out of energy, we're running out of money, and we're feeling isolated. And yet at that critical moment, friends, family, sometimes complete strangers come on board. Before you know it, we're back in the game. Tokyo, here we come!
Making a comeback. 4 weeks, 2,300 miles, 5 countries.
After all the trials and tribulations, this ride had become deeply personal. All that mattered now was getting to that Rugby World Cup game in Tokyo.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Be easy.
Go check out redearthfilms.vhx.tv to get your copy of Singapore to Tokyo any way we can. That's redearthfilms.vhx.tv.
That's a shame, though, like that, what's going on with the Olympics, though, right? Having been to Japan, right? We got to link up in Japan for the World Cup last year.
Oh, dude, that was dope.
Like, that was like, yeah. So, I mean, it's better that we have it than we don't have it. You know what I mean? It's better that we have it than we don't have it. But at the same time, like, Japan's so cool. It's such a cool country.
Bruh.
It's unfortunate that people don't get to experience it. More importantly, that, like, Japan doesn't get to host people there. Like, that's...
I'm hoping it changes. Look, technically we're supposed to go back-to-back Rugby World Cup and then Olympics, and I think they actually even have one more event that was supposed to happen for this year. simultaneously. So hopefully it's kind of setting up to bring more of these major events in, because they were by far the best host I've ever seen in my life.
That was awesome.
Easy.
That was a great experience.
So
that's another thing about us being in a fortunate position we are, right? Like, we may be broke, but at the same time, sometimes we get some fringe benefits. Like, you get to go to the World Cup, or you get to travel across like Asia. Like, you get to ride a bike across Asia. Like stuff like that. And I'm like, let's meet up in Kobe or wherever we were, right? Like, let's
dude,
where were we?
It was
right?
No, it wasn't Osaka. It was at the far end, because it was for the wait, was it Osaka? No. It was. I thought it was the Haikido. Maybe it was Osaka, because we met twice. We had the one that was on the far west side of Japan. That was like
Fukuoka.
Yeah, there we go.
That's the best place, dude. That was my favorite. That place is cool. That place is cool.
Yeah,
so we almost beat the French, I think, too. Is that where that was? Is that where the French game was? Yeah. I was staying in the hotel. I was staying at like the nice bougie ass hotel, and it was like one of the last like hotels on the trip, and I was like excited to go back. The best like eggs Benedict I've ever had in my life.
Bro.
And I remember like in that, and that's where they had like the crazy like display outside in the mall, and all the French players were staying at our place, and the hotel that the Eagles were staying there was just like, man. And I just remember being like, oh, I'm staying with the French players and taking an elevator with this French dude right now. I don't know your name, but like you're 6'5", like 6'6".
They said, all right.
Damn, a specimen. Like, okay, good luck tomorrow, buddy. Not.
So true, dude. No. But you're right. It's part of that benefit. Like, and I think it's one that people also, I guess, it throws the perception off, because again, it goes like, yo, you guys must be doing well. You're going to all these places, and it's like, no, we are scraping the literal bottom to do it. Let me ask.
7-Eleven food to survive right now.
Oh my god! But it's the best food though, too.
7-Eleven, low key, that's. I wish 7-Eleven in America got its game together, because I would just stay living off that food.
Let me ask you this. As you've done these years, and I kind of want to get some of the MLR stuff from you, but first, as you've done the broadcasting and worked the more business side of it, how has it helped or hurt or developed your perspective on life, let alone off of rugby? Because my perspective on life is that I need to get another job, like another career. I'm like serious about like. No, I mean, like, there's part truth to that. Like, right, like last year was rough. Like, I mean, I lost everything. I lost $30K of cash, not even projected income. Right, like, hit the stride. Next Level Rugby. We're producing the regional matches for New York, for Old Glory, for New England. And then I get hired to do the CBS Director of the Week game, which is like a great gig. Roll in, just fly in, direct those, and everything happened. And then like a week into our production season, right, like COVID happens, boom. So it's like that was rough, what I mean? Like I had spent so much money just on building like equipment and putting it into the trailer and upgrading the trailer that never got used. And I've never used it to this day. You know what I mean? And so that was like all my savings, and you can't recoup it at that point. Right.
Like in the production world, once you buy it, like you buy it, you don't get to return it. So it was like that was tough. And then like I was fortunate to have opportunities like between then and now, and like now it's still not guaranteed. Right. Like it's still not guaranteed. Like if the season shuts us down again, like what happens?
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? Like I gotta figure something else out. You know what I mean? So that's where it's like from a business standpoint, and the perspective of it is, I've been burnt by it, but I'm also like a glutton for punishment. Right. Like
isn't that still rugby?
Yeah. And like I'm a glutton for punishment, and I want to see it work. Right. Like I want to make it work. But I've said, and I mean, I've probably said this a million times, this is the last shot, time I'm going to really like go after it, right? Like, but again, how many times have I like retired? I retired.
I think there's always that little glimmer of hope that just kind of dangles there, because you see it's, I think the hardest part of it all has always been, you can see it. It's there. There is something clearly there, but it just feels sometimes like it's just right out of reach. And you're like, what is the distance between this little inch and this goal that can be, closed up here?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like it's ultimately like it's the people, right, that like keeps it coming back. And like Preston and Warren brought up like good points where they said like, you know, we've watched these guys grow up, right? Like, I mean, that's why I feel like, you know, like I've seen the progression of these players like across all levels from like high school. Like I remember watching like Ashley Burge as a high schooler playing in the All-Americans for Serevi out in LVI. Like, you know what I mean? Like players there and then going on to college careers and doing good. So it's like, it's cool. Like the Michael Sinclairs from Stony Brook, right? To like, you know, playing for Old Blue and then playing for the Jamaican national team and playing for Rooney, like seeing that, like Derek Lipscombs and like, so I think that's ultimately what comes around. It's like, it's the people that are involved and, you know, rugby being just an open sport and being able to, you know, just connect with people on a level that you don't really see on other sports at all.
Right.
You know, the access is like, just, you know, it's fun. And like, you know, plus I remember I was talking with the guy who hired me for this job, who I'm excited to be working with. And I was like, listen, man, I got like this opportunity to work making like, you know, over 6 figures, really good job. And to be like in email marketing, doing BS videos that like take 2 seconds to do, but everyone's like, oh my God, it's amazing. You know what I mean? And he says like, I don't see you doing that. I'm like, I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't like, you know what I mean? Like I've never like, I don't know, I guess I moved to Austin, Texas, make a TV show and then let's get it done. So, I mean, that's like the biggest thing. So I think like, you know, the biggest thing that I've learned from business from this is that you're gonna take lumps. You're gonna get punched in the face. Like you're gonna get sucker punched. Right. You know, things are gonna happen, but like you just gotta just get up and just figure out how to move from where you're at. Right. Like don't worry about where you're at, but worry about where you gotta go.
Right.
And one of my best friends that I worked with in New York, Mickey, is a Green Beret for like 16 years, and we had like this philosophical conversation one time. He's like, you know what, man? You know, I think like you never really arrive. And I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, I think about it, man. Like you're always like, you know, you think you're going here, but then you get there and you gotta go somewhere else. And I was like, and he's right. You know what I mean? Yeah, dude, you never arrive. You know what I mean? No matter where you get, there's always something else. And you know, there's always going to be an obstacle. There's always going to be something that you have to deal with. But like, as I'm saying that, as confident, like, I mean, there've been times where I'm just like, screw this, I'm done.
Facts.
Like, forget this. And a lot of it has been like some of my friends, people I trust, where I say I'm done. They're like, nah, dude, you've like come so far. You know, you guys have gotten to points where, you know, just stick with it. Just stick with it. And that's what I think a lot of it is like come from. It's like my buddies, you know, like, you know, stick with it. You know, it'll pay out, you know. No. So, and that's why that's, you know, not even pay out, but like you'll see what you want to see.
You'll see the results. You'll see the outcome. No, I think about that all the time, and it's the same thing. I feel I've you know, we've talked about it before. I always look at it kind of like the comedians of the past. Like you hear the ones that are big now, where they talk about, man, I remember when I was gutting it right before I did Def Jam, and you know, and I was before Comic View and stuff like that, and you know, it was tough. And then we had this moment, and you started to see it, and all of a sudden, look at where we're at now. You know, you lose some people along the way, but there's this weird, I don't know, maybe it's just this weird cycle of nature that says, hey, at some point, we'll give you the chance, but we're always going to give you at least something to progress forward to. Going to hurt you a little bit, but it's going to be moving forward in some way, shape, or form. So I think that's what I always kick off into, because, like you said, there's always something there. It's the people, the connections, and because you get to know the depth of it, especially from the camera view, from the business view, it just opens up more and more from there.
Yeah, and I mean, truthfully, there's maybe only one other job I'd rather do than this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to work any other 9-to-5 jobs. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to work in an office. I don't want to. I mean, I guess there's security in having a check that comes like every week, which is nice.
It's nice.
It's really nice. You have to get somebody down to pay you the money they owe you, but like, you know, keeps you young, I guess.
Where's the excitement? You know, all that comfortability. You know, where's the excitement of getting your blood pressure nice and high, and then being able to get what you need, and then dropping it and being like, Well, look, I wanted to ask you one last thing about MLR before we start to wrap it up. But you know, obviously, say what?
I got nothing to do. I'm out here in Wenatchee. I work 6 hours a week, dude. Like, I got nothing to do. Like, it's rough. Like, I watch really cool points take off every day. and then do like something else for like an hour and a half. Like, I ain't
All
got
right,
nowhere to be.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not using up your time for poorly.
All right, let's go. What you got?
So, obviously MLR, we've watched this advent of professional rugby throughout the US, and we've now gotten to this elemented stage of MLR. As you've been able to see it, and obviously last year ended up being a little bit of a clusterfuck, but even before that, you were starting to work your way in, you're starting to see what's going on the ground, having watched these guys. The impact that MLR has, for you, what is it that you see the future of? Because for me, I've seen little bits at the lowest level, like high school level, and a little bit of an evolution of how these kids are looking at the game. But from your perspective, having seen a broader view of it, what do you feel like has been the impact and can be the potential impact of MLR moving forward?
Yeah, like I'd be hesitant to call last year a cluster, right? Like I think it's an last year sucked, right? And like when that came down, as a business person, I was a little bit upset at myself because even like January 15th, I was talking with my buddy Shane, who was like a regional director for FEMA, and I was like, hey, we're gonna have to worry about this COVID thing. He's like, yeah, it's gonna be bad. He's like, it's coming. And I mean, this is like January, and so like I put all the eggs in that basket. But like, when they shut down, and even going into that weekend, I remember I was there. I was working with CBS, and we were doing the DC versus ATL game, which was awesome. DC won that game. It was an awesome game, though. Like the director that I was working with, I was assistant directing. He was going out to do like the Indian Springs tennis tournament. He goes, "Oh, it just got canceled." It's right before we go to air. He's like, "Oh, well, I just got canceled off that. That's weird." And I was like, "Oh, it's an international tournament." And that was like the first domino. I was like, "Oh man." And then so like going into that next week, like we had 3 productions going on that next week. So we'd already done one a month prior for DC, like our trailer. And then we're doing a DC game, a New York game, and a New England game that weekend. Right. And so like I had to like prepare for all that, had everything going into it. And I kind of knew at the start of that week that like we're not going to go into it, but even still had to be like, hey, we're going to make this work. We're going to go. But secretly knowing there ain't no way this is happening, So it was hard, and I think that they made the right decision. I think to settle down and recycle, it was a good decision. And it sets us up to where we are right now, right? Like I think the biggest thing that Major League Rugby can do is that it can like, I don't want to be like, oh, the kids can look up to it and da 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 da. I mean, that is a part of it, right? Like I do think that is something to where you can see a professional athlete and be like, that's cool, I want to go do that. But it can make rugby better across the country, right? It can raise the profile, right? Like if it's exciting, it can highlight what rugby is and what makes rugby great as a sport, right? And not the values, we're all good and we shake everyone's hands, we don't celebrate, we got to get out of here, right? Like we need a little entertainment in it as well too. But I do think that we can provide a platform with Major League Rugby to help everybody else, whether it's a mention on the show, right? Like what is going on with this engagement, right? Like what is this team doing with community engagement, which is a segment that we're going to be putting in, right? Like my whole thing is, and what I want to do is specifically with the show is help that, right? Like we have a television show that's going to be on Fox Sports and it'll be on regional networks across the country, right? Like on that show, I want the community to be involved, right? I want stories, right? Because rugby it's not the Eagles, right? That's not what it is. Nobody and I'm just going to be honest, the majority of people that play rugby don't give a crap about the Eagles. They don't even know about the Eagles, right? But Major League Rugby can be that because we as a country and, smarter people than me have been saying this forever is that like we're in America, we don't care about national teams. We care about the professional teams in our community. Right. It's true because we're such a big country, right? Like we don't have to compete with
everything. We don't have to worry about this. Yeah.
Right. San Diego versus Austin, right? Like Austin versus Houston, right? Like those matchups like right there, like New York versus New England, right? Like those are the matches that people care about in America. They don't care about America versus Scotland. They don't care about America. Like I wish they did, but the reality is that they don't care, right? We care about professional sports. We care about these athletes that are going out. And I think the big thing is where we're at right now with the growth of the league is that we're at like an inflection point, right? To where it's like this season, we're going to nail it and it's going to be good. And it's not going to be like smooth sailing straight out of here or we're not going to get it right. But I do, from what I see from the back channels, I have faith in it, right? Like, and I had faith in it from when it first came out because the teams have say in it, right? Like the league isn't overarching. Like it's not, the league has very minimal say in what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like it is very much like the board. People work together, they talk together, and the way that they're addressing, right? We had a schedule change. I just spent all day, half day going through updating my Google Calendar for the schedule change, but they're making that work, right? So finding creative solutions in this environment was what's important, which is what we all have to do as Americans, what we all have to do as people, as like humans on this earth right now, is figure out how to make it work for the time being. And so from what I've seen, and I mean, I don't have like the greatest view into it, but like from just what I hear and what I see, like I think they're making the right decisions, and we got to like trust that. And I think this community, for a while, we've always been like, let's hammer, let's hold them accountable, let's do this. Like maybe the rugby community is the only like group of people that like actually keeps people accountable, you know, like actually like the fire, right? And it's just like, and I think that we should be excited as a community because, you know, excited for Major League Rugby, excited for each other, and excited for rugby because like that's all we got. We got each other, right? And we got to get other people. If we're so much infighting within rugby, right? Like we're not gonna progress the sport, and like, you know, if we're not supporting each other, right? Which is like the big thing. And so that's what I think, like Major League Rugby's done it, and you see a lot of the teams doing academy teams, a lot of like, you know, that outreach, that community outreach. And it's exciting because, you know, the pro rugby was just like, I mean, that first meeting, when I heard him say what he wanted to do, I was in the back with Marty Veal, who had some awesome comments to say. That was going on. If you know anything about Marty Veal, you know, you can fill in the blank with what he was saying there. But like, yeah, when he was just like, no, I'm going to be the sole owner. I'm going to make all the decisions. I'm going to do all that. Like, that's not how it works. It's not how America works. It's not like, it's not the best way to go about things, I think. And that's what I think. Yeah, and that's what I think that's better with this iteration is that, like, you know, it works, right? A rising tide raises all ships.
Facts, you know. No, and I've felt that. You know, for me, it's always, I'll put it like this. I've never doubted that this iteration could work. I actually liked it because of the fact that it had this split up of the ownership, and it actually felt like a union of teams as opposed to a single, you know, autocracy trying to separate these teams out, which is too much. I guess my always thought was like, all right, what is it that they want to get towards? Like, everybody wants to grow rugby. That's the broad overall term. That means nothing. And to me, it means nothing. So it's like, what is the absolute goal that we want? Is it just on field? Because, you know, I know that we always had clubs to do that, or is it to be able to raise the public profile? And I don't know if I really appreciated it until summer 2019, and I was traveling with Stars a little bit, and I'm starting to see the high schoolers, and I'm starting to pay attention to even more colleges, and you start to see the focus that they're having on wanting to perform. And it's small. Yeah. We've always had highlights and stuff like that, but it became a focal. It was commoditized getting to that point, which you know, a lot of people in rugby seem to fear money as the root of all evil in a lot of ways. But
well, somebody threw out an interesting analogy to me one time. They're like, it's like, yeah, rugby players don't like to spend the money. They're like, all right, you know that dude who makes like $200,000 on your team? Look at his cleats and look at how much tape he uses on those cleats.
Right.
When it comes to rugby, we're cheap. Right. But you'll spend $500 to go to a Giants game, spend $11 a beer, right, and do all that. But I'll complain about spending money for rugby. I'll complain about this. What am I getting for free? Like, how come I don't? Why am I getting it? No, you need to create an economy. You have to pay for it. That's why, like, everyone's like, oh, how are you watching this stream? Like, oh, BitBox at this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. Like, fundamentally, I have to pay for it. Otherwise, like, everything that like somebody has to make money. There has to be an economy. There has to be a way. It just can't be flow rugby. You know what I mean? It's got to be like somebody good and responsible. You know what I mean? Like, and that provides good stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's the thing that I was like, okay, I'm seeing a change here. Because whenever you're creating exactly what you said, you're creating an economy, you're creating an industry. And I felt, especially over the last few years, and this 2020 allowed me to think about it even more, was that we really have been working to develop industry and rugby around it. Not just the struggle element, but it did. But I think MLR created a standard where it was like, okay, now here is professional. And in the minds of people, professional has this perspective. It has these standards, expectations. And I think it's been part of that tide that's lifted it. Now, it's not perfect, and don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of work that has to be done with it. but I think it was something that I saw as a generational effort where it was like, oh, okay, maybe we'll be able to go pay for this or do that. And I think that's where you start to actually see rapid growth, because you don't see NFL get to where it is because they were nickel and diming. You don't see the NBA get to where it is nickel and dime. Shoot, you don't even see MLS doing it, even though I don't care for their structure.
That's a bad example right now because they're losing a boatload of money.
That's what I'm saying. I really like their business structure, but it's still, there was still a commodity, an industry that's being developed around it. And when you see that happening, whether it's from an analysis side, whether it's from marketing side, whether it's from even third-party salespeople or even in-party, like first party, you develop that, and it only sets up more investment into the sport itself. So I feel like MLR has done that. Now, don't get me wrong. I still feel like there's this marketing effort that I always get a little bit thrown off with MLR.
Well, I mean, you can't do everything. That's
exactly
the thing, right. Like, and that's hopefully we can help provide that. Hopefully, Nick and Tyler and I in Austin can help provide some of that.
So, like when you talked about,
there's some other stuff going on behind the scenes too that isn't even MLR saying, or like it isn't MLR. Right. There are other people doing other projects that are going to be coming out with some pretty cool stuff that I'm excited to see.
And that's what I like.
Yeah.
Is that creating the industry, commoditization around it, creating an element where people invest in, not just emotionally, but invest in dollars. And when they invest in dollars, they're going to see return, like real return, not flowing return.
Yeah. And I mean, right. I mean, eventually, but we'll see. Like, I mean, whatever.
But I do like one thing somebody said. I forgot who it was, but they said it well. The one thing particularly that MLR has done really well that was missing before was getting the community involved. And when you get the community involved, it's so much easier to be able to make things move forward.
Yeah, man. Look at like Seattle crushing it. Like DC, exactly. I mean, DC was crushing it. Like that was a great environment. I mean, it was crazy for a professional sporting event, like for them to be in Catholic University, because I mean, there's literally like a little rope and then the sideline and professional athletes playing like right in front of these VIP booths, which is funny to me, but also awesome, right? Because it was like that level of accessibility was just like crazy. From an insurance standpoint, maybe not the best, but like.
But it makes it feel. And
then people are tailgating on the other side of the fence,
right
before the game, right? Like that was like the coolest stuff to like see. And I mean, we got B-roll, we threw that into the games and made sure people saw that. But like that's the stuff to where, like if you can get that right and you can treat it right. And that's what I was so disappointed that I didn't get to see the Free Jacks game, because I was excited to see what they did. I mean, they had sold a whole VIP section, Delta, sponsored by Delta, by an airline.
Oh, nice.
Like I mean, like a whole VIP section sold out, sponsored by Delta Airlines. Like I mean, that was huge. I think that was like one of the big, like big sponsorships that came out there. I was like, that's dope.
That's that push forward.
So I mean, they sold out. Like DC was like sold out. New York had issues because MCU is like a difficult place to get to,
right?
From the city. I mean, but like in New York, New York's tough, man. It's a lot of variables you got to deal with in that city. That's like what makes it great, also makes it difficult.
Right.
But it's like Atlanta looks like, I mean, when they had the smoke going in the back, like, and they had that going, it was like a soccer thing. Like I think that's the thing. And if we don't have fans, and we're not going to have fans at every stadium, right? Like that's the thing. Like not every stadium's going to have fans, but we will have rugby. And we'll get that. And then when we get back to that, like I'm excited. Like when we get back to that, I mean, it's not going to happen this year. Like, and hopefully it happens next year.
We start to see that start. And look, even if it's limited fans for a little bit, I'm pretty sure guaranteed New Orleans has limited fans. Atlanta will have limited fans. Texas will probably have limited fans. So at least, and to be honest, it creates exclusivity, which means that people can create desire to want to see more overall. So I think there's still the opportunity to do it. And this is where I go back to those things that I worry about. I feel like they're going to end up getting solved, because I feel like something about this pandemic creates a new era of rugby.
Yeah, it's been like, I mean, right? Like, I mean, if I get like super like meta, right? Like
meta with it, right?
No, but just like, yeah, if anything, I mean, when this first happened, it's like, and this came about, it's like, we gotta learn. And in this this time everything's been so accelerated, from like social justice issues
Right.
to combating a pandemic to housing issues to you know, inequality, you know, and wealth disparity, right? So it's like we've had so much that we've gone through, but at the same time, right, like we've found solutions, everyone's working into it. Like we got to remember what we're all like working towards, right? Like you got to find a solution, it's going to work through, you got to play the field that you're given, right? Like right now, this is the field, this is how this is the environment that we have to operate in, and you have to understand how you're going to operate in this environment and what you're going to do, you know, and then how to do it. I mean, there is no one answer to beat this virus. I mean, and you know, it's the last thing I think maybe we even uploaded for Next Level Rugby was, you know, we were in Boston, we had $20,000 worth of gear sitting around, and lost a job, and we had nothing else to do. So me and Tyler, who's going to be producing the show for Major League Rugby with me, you know, we did like that special, like we did like a special from a suite last night to party in Boston. Like went out there, did that. But I mean, that's like, you know, I forgot where I was going with that. I was going to tell Tyler's story, but whatever. No, his story's funny though. It is like, if anything comes out of the pandemic, it's hilarious because like he's like Nick's best friend from Chicago.
Yeah.
You know, had worked in like production stuff before, and like really wanted to get involved in it. And then for the DC game, the first DC game, like I hadn't met him, and Nick's like, hey, you got to bring him out. You know, you got to get him out. People that don't know Nick is like my number 2 guy. Like, and there's a couple number 2s. Nick's like up there. And so he's like, hey, I'll just fly out on my own dime. Kid comes out. He was like a PA, was great. Wants to go on mic. Like, kid's got a great presence. I was like, hey, listen, help us facilitate. We already got a sideline reporter. Like, you know, don't need you. So he comes out. He's great. End up covering all his expenses. You know, thanks for coming out. And I was like, all right, I tell you what, like I'll hire you. You got the job. Like, because I had him do some auditions for me. I had him do some stuff. So he quits his job as a car salesman, which is a perfect job for an announcer. A car salesman, just talking to people, right? They're just back and forth. So it's like perfect in between job. Quits his job, drives out from Chicago on a Wednesday night. Thursday, the season gets canceled. So he's sleeping at Nick's. Like, quit his job, comes all the way out here to like work for us and do like 13 games. And then lost his job. Like, but he woke up next morning, didn't have a job. But I mean, like, it's like you gotta take the lumps, right? Like, I mean, you gotta.
But I think that's in the chaos is where growth comes the most, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I mean, it's like as crazy as it gets, right? Like, this isn't World War II. We're not dealing with the stuff that our grandparents had to deal with. I mean, we have a tendency as a society to make smaller issues bigger than they are because the voices are louder. There's more out there. There's more. It's a different mentality, right? If we just step back and we're looking for like facing stuff, we're going through a hard time and we're dealing with stuff like as humans, we've got through worse, right? We've done worse, and it's always because we come together and we work together, right? And we work with somebody, right? And like I think that's like the big thing is that we all got to come together, man. It's all got to be better to each other.
Yeah, well, slow and steady is the process.
Help each other through this.
Agreed. Yo, bro, tell them where they can find you at best.
Man, I don't know. Depends on what week I'm at, right? Like, I mean, I haven't done anything on the social media since March. Like, I don't do that until 38, man. Like, I'm in Wenatchee, Washington right now, working on a movie set. Cool story, devotion. Get to watch Corsairs take off and MiG-15s take off every day, and A6 Sky Raiders. And then apparently I'm moving to Austin, Texas. I found out on Monday I got to be there February 22nd. So got to find an apartment. I'll be in Austin, Texas for like 5 months. And then probably Chicago after that. Well, definitely Chicago after that.
Nice.
So,
nice. Yeah. Okay, well, so maybe find you is the wrong word, but leave them with a little something else to add to remember you by since till you become out of the social media black hole.
Yeah, I'm too old for that stuff, man. Like I watched probably there's like 17 or 18-year-olds just like beautiful day out here today, 54 degrees. I'm going down to like the river, like where I walked, the beautiful park, and like, geez, man, for like 10 minutes they're just sitting there taking all the photos and getting the sun and doing this. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh my god, like, that's why you hire. That's why I bring Nick and Tyler to do the social media. Let's have them get some 25-year-olds that like are actually into it, know what's going on. You guys, that's why you got to hire young. You get old, you gotta hire young.
Hire young. Keep you young. Keep you in the know.
Yeah.
Well, brother, man, I like I said at the beginning, man, and I'll say it again. I truly appreciate you, and I appreciate you being on here. And dude, I continue to look forward to all our adventures moving forward, regardless of however they're set to be.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. I enjoyed this. This is good. I'm gonna probably look back at it and be like, "What the? Oh my god! I can't believe whatever." But no, seriously, man, keep it up, dude. I've been like, I've loved watching you crush it and do your thing, and you've always been like true. Like whenever, for those watching out there, like whenever I need like an actual like a good input, I just need to waste 2 hours of my day. I just give him a call, and we solve all the world's problems.
Yo,
like, we solve all the world problems. I don't know why nobody's listening to us. But if they did, right, maybe get Preston and Warren together and then forget about it. Like,
set up the group.
Yeah. Who else is out there that wants to join us?
Get Toes on here. Look, man, we can set this up, make a whole group project.
Yeah, we can just talk to each other, keep each other entertained. Nobody else. I love you. It's okay. What can you say?
Hey, man, it's what it's about, man. It's what it's about.
Yo, Ryan, I definitely want to say thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. As usual, an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see what happens for the future with all the projects and everything like that. Of course, work with you again on stuff, and I love what you have going on. And everybody, yo, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this, for taking the time to pay attention. And guys, this isn't the only one that we have. Yo, you guys, we have some amazing guests last week. We had Sarah Alice Saul with Tory Rugby, just giving us just a great emotional connection with players and what happens behind the scenes. We had Katie Sadlier with World Rugby, the general manager for women's rugby for World Rugby. We had Adam Milby, the president for the Philippines Rugby Union. We've had Warren Mullis and Preston Thompson, the host for the American Rugby Pod, Tozan Tutstanwe, founder of Viral Rugby. We've had so many great people, Tiffany Faye. We've had Koma Gandhi Fishbin. We have had Kimani Davis, Kyle and Tiana Granby. We have had Adam Gray Hayward of the movie Play On. We've had Blaine Scully, USA Rugby captain for Rugby World Cup 2019. We have had Raheem Vital and Michael Toussaint of Prairie View A&M. We've had Chisei Belu Charity Williams. Yo, we got some great guests. This is episode 42, and we got 41 other podcasts that I suggest you guys go back and listen to and get the information, because it'll be well worth it. But in the meantime, I hope you guys know, I hope you guys are happy, I hope you guys are healthy, and I hope you know that you are highly favored. Talk to you next time. Cheers.
Yo, I want to talk to you guys about the HBCU Rugby Classic and Music Festival. Yo, this is the best event that is coming out in terms of cultural rugby. It is a representative of the historically black colleges and universities, but not just simply to represent for them, but to be able to continue to promote the development of rugby in all communities. And we want you guys to know that we are coming back for May 1st and 2nd, 2021. Do not want to miss this one. I know there's a chance that you guys might not be able to come into the stadium, but please be sure to get ready to watch it. We have a great set of teams coming up, great invitations from youth rugby all the way up to senior level rugby. So we are not just going to make it so that you only look for or understand one part, but this is for the whole shebang. This is something that is growing that will only make us better. So definitely check out more information at www.hbcurugbyclassic.com or find us on social media at HBCU Rugby on Twitter and HBCU Rugby Classic on Facebook and Instagram. Guys, I know you're gonna love this.